This is Jody Denberg, and this is the KUTX at Home series. And today we are at home with Austin Music Awards Hall of Fame member, Texas Heritage Songwriters Hall of Fame member, and our good friend Ray Wylie Hubbard, who is at home in Wimberley, Texas. Hey, Ray.
Hey, how you doing, Jody? Good to see you.
I'm doing good for seeing you. How long have you lived in Wimberley?
We've been here about 22 years, I think. We came down here, we were living in Poetry, Texas at the time, and Judy was working at a Lincoln Mercury dealership. One morning about 7 o'clock, she called me and said, "What would you do if I quit my job?" And I said, "Well, I'd move to Wimberley. I can write a song anywhere, and I think that'd be a good place to write them." So she said, "I'm quitting my job." So I think Lucas was 2 or 3. So we packed up and we came down here, and we found this old log home that had been abandoned. It had been completely stripped and didn't have doors. The kitchen, no kitchen cabinets. The kitchen sink was actually gone. And so I loved it. And Judy said, "I'm not living there." But we got it, and we put up blankets for doors and lived out of an ice chest and coffee pot until I'd go out and do a gig, and I'd make $300. We'd come back, we'd buy a faucet, so, but it's home. So 22 years.
And 22 of the most productive years in your career. As far as this quarantine business goes, how much has changed for you in your day-to-day life?
Well, it's not doing gigs, because we had to, with rescheduling and canceling gigs and everything like that, that's completely changed. Like I've still got gear in my van that from the last gig in January, and I just haven't unloaded, and I don't even think I started my van since then. So, missing playing live for people it's still such a joy for me. But usually nothing really has changed. I usually, go upstairs in a little room and by myself and write songs. So that's about the same.
And you mentioned your son, Lucas, who's a newlywed. So you are getting to see Lucas on occasion.
Yeah, he shows up with a mask on and gloves and sprays and so, so he comes over maybe once a week, and we get to hang with them. They came over and we all went out on the back porch and sat around. But they're very, very careful. But it was good to see him.
It's good to see you, and with your guitar. And you mentioned not playing live these days is, one of the biggest differences in your life. When I see you play live, there's so many songs that you have to play that the audience expects you to play. I was wondering if there's a song you wanted to play for us now that maybe is one that you always look forward to playing, that you always like to play.
Well, to me is Drunken Poet's Dream, the song that I wrote with, I've got some really good songs in my arsenal, of course, One Rock and Roll and Snake Farm, of course, and Texas and all that. But something about playing Drunken Poets, it reminds me of when I wrote that with Hayes. And so that's always kind of a joy. We got 2 different versions, but I still enjoy playing that because it's just a unique, cool song. I mean, though it's Drunken Poet's Dream, it's really kind of about the woman that's, has enough hard bark on her to hang out with the poet. So that's kind of one of my favorites that I still enjoy doing.
Well, let's do, if you don't mind, Drunken Poet's Dream. This is a song that Ray Wylie Hubbard co-wrote with Hayes Carl, and Ray Wylie from his home in Wimberley, Texas.
So I know a woman that's wild as wrong. She likes to drink Topo Chico and play ping pong. She crosses the bridge, she sets it on fire. She lands like a bird on a telephone wire. I'm gonna holler and I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna give me some mescaline and then I'm gonna rhyme that with gasoline. It's a drunken poet's dream. Whoa. Now there's some money on the table and a pistol on the floor. And a few paperback books by Louis L'Amour. Whiskey bottles are scattered like last night's clothes. With cigarettes and papers and Oreos, not Dominoes. Now my harmonica has got a busted reed. My lips are chapped and are about to bleed. She says that's nothing when she was a kid. Oh, she danced with the dead at the pyramids. I'm gonna holler and I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna give me some mescaline, and then I'm gonna rhyme out with gasoline. It's a drunken poet's dream. Whoa, whoa. I'll never pay back my student loan. Hayes wrote that line. Smelling like Coors and cheap cologne. She tells me not to worry about Judgment Day. She says we're dying to get into heaven, just ain't our way. I'm gonna holler and I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna give me some mescaline, and then I'm gonna rhyme that with gasoline. It's a drunken poet's dream. Whoa. So I know a woman that's wild as wrong. She likes to drink Topo Chico and play ping pong. You know, I have to change the words there because it's, you know, daylight. You know, we actually kind of have a nighttime version of that, but I changed the words a little bit because we, you know, might be some youngsters listening.
That was just great. Ray Wylie Hubbard, Drunken Poet's Dream, a song he co-wrote with Hayes Carl, and Ray performing it for us live from his home in Wimberley. So Hayes's version is a little different?
Yeah, we kind of came up with the first verse and the chorus, and we kind of, you know, had to split, and we didn't really see each other. We didn't really contact. So finally he called me up, said, hey, man, I finished that song. I wrote it. I put a bridge in it, and I'm going to record it. And I said, well, I'm not going to do a bridge. You know, that's for young kids to do, man. I don't bother with that. And so he did a version of it. He changed it, you know, like put dominoes in there, and I had to explain to him about the Dance with the Dead at the Pyramids. You know, he wasn't familiar with the Grateful Dead playing at the Pyramids. I guess, when was that, 78? I can't remember when that was, but I had to explain to him about that line. So it's the same song, but it's just two different versions. It's kind of like twins that aren't quite identical.
Well, it's one of my favorites, and as we heard, it's one of Ray's favorites to still play all the time. Last time I saw you person to person, as it were, we were at the Paramount Theater for your annual birthday show.
Yeah.
And you and your wife, Judy, were telling me about big things that were going to happen in 2020, but couldn't really talk about it at the time. And I've come to learn, as many others have recently, that you have a new album coming out on Big Machine Records, which is an amazing independent label out of Nashville that Universal Records distributes. And, you know, this is a big deal.
it is a big deal. It's you know, I'm a big deal. For a long time, I've been such a little deal, and no, but what happened was I made this record. I just called up some different musicians and friends, and I said, "Hey, man, you want to track?" And so I went in there with Cadillac 3 and Larkin Poe and you know, and Aaron Lee Tasjan and Ashley McBride and you know, Ronnie Dunn and Peter Rowan, and just say, would you do it? So we had done this record and had it mixed, and then we were in Nashville at the Gibson showcase thing up there they had during NAMM, and I met Julian Raymond, and I'd met Scott Borchetta in Austin. They did a big CMA thing at Stubbs with me and Robert Earl, and I just made him really brief because he had a really cool leather jacket on, and I said, oh, I like that jacket. And that's about it, really. And but then Julian said, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I made this record. And he said, well, I'd like to hear it. So I gave him a link, and he said, can I take this to Scott Borchetta? I said, sure. And then he said, Scott, I'd like to meet you and Judy, and you know, he really liked the record, wants to put it out on Big Machine. And I was, you know, I'm an old folk blues, you know, roots cat, you know, and but I looked at the label Big Machine, and but he's also got Sheryl Crow and Cheap Trick and Cadillac 3, and you know, and I went, wow, that, you know, that's a good roster to be among. So we went up, met Scott, and he was really gracious and kind, and he said, I think I want to put this record out, and then I said, you know, why? You know, and he said, I really dug your songwriting for a long period of time, and I just like to raise your profile as a songwriter, because I really dig the record. So we said sure. So we're very happy to, you know, to be a part of that a Big Machine. I probably could phrase that better. The Big Machine label. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I kind of liked Big Machine, but you're on a label that not only has Cheap Trick and Sheryl Crow, but mainstream country artists like Tim McGraw and Rascal Flatts.
Yeah,
that's amazing and great.
I think you know, Scott, you know, he's got the machine of doing that, but all of a sudden, I think in heart, he really digs, you know, songwriters and you know, I think he likes rock and roll, you know, and so, you know, I'm like I say, honored to be on it, and pretty cool. You know, like I say, the record's coming out, I think, in July, and so far, you know, it's really kind of weird because, you know, the records, hopefully everything's going to level off at that time, and everybody will stay in between now and then, and stay healthy, and this thing will go down and all that, so that, you know, come July we can go out and work the record, as they say. And so, but you know, so we're so fortunate. You know, it's been great. We're having a good. They've been really great with us.
The first single from Wylie Hubbard's forthcoming album. The album again comes out July 10th. The album is called Co-Starring, and the first single, Bad Trick, co-stars Ringo Starr, Joe Walsh, Don Was, and Chris Robinson.
Yeah.
And we will post the full video on this page for later. And but just briefly, because these are some heavy cats, but Ringo's been a fan of yours for more than a decade.
Well, I don't know if I can do this very briefly because it's, you know, but we met Ringo. Snake Farm came out, and I'll make this really brief, and all of a sudden it would come out, and all of a sudden someone in Austin, I don't know, called me up and said, Ringo's talking about you on his website. So I go to his website, and he says, here's what I've been listening to. George Martin sent me a mono thing of the Beatles. Here's Dylan's thing. And Wylie Hubbard, Texas guy, Snake Farm. Woo. And I went, wow. And what had happened is a fellow named Brent Carpenter, who does all Ringo's videos, had burnt Ringo a copy and said, hey, there's this Texas guy I think you'll like. And so I thought, wow, that was really cool. And then the next time Rick Richards and I played at McCabe's, Brent Carpenter showed up, I think it was on a Friday. He said, Ringo's playing the Greek Theater tomorrow night and would like to invite you to the show and like to meet you. So Rick and I went out there. We had a parking place up front, which was pretty cool. So we met Brent in the sound booth, and he took us back there, and we met Ringo and Barbara, and there were all these, you know, famous people there. And so you know, I said, Ringo, this is my drummer, Rick Richards. He goes, where's the rest of your band? And I said, well, I'm just traveling with Rick, my drummer. So then Ringo goes around and introduces me to all these people going, this is Wylie Hubbard from Texas. He's brilliant. He travels with a drummer. He doesn't travel with a guitar player or a bass player. He travels with the drummer. How brilliant is that? And, you know, it was a thing there. And so we got to hang out. And he said, come out and sing Hell with My Friends with me for my encore. And I went, oh, okay. So we were in the video truck with Brent. And then Brent, you know, watching the show. And so Brent says, time for you to go. And I said, well, thank you very much. We had a good time. And he says, no, it's time for you to go on stage. And I went, really? And he said, yeah. And he said, I thought he was just kind of being gracious. No, he really wants you to come out there. So I went out there and sang on Gary White's microphone. I helped my friends, and I had to explain to him, say, Ringo said I could. And I don't think Ringo told anybody else that they invited me. But we got to meet Ringo, and he was so, so gracious. And then we were cutting a record with George Reeve and Audley Freed out there at Round Top. I'm trying to make this brief. And so we were sitting around. I had a resonator, and Audley had a mandolin. Rick had a cardboard box, and I think George had a 12-string. So I said, let's do Coochie Coochie. So we did Coochie Coochie and went, rah, rah, and so anyhow, we sent it to Brent, and he sent it to Ringo. And all of a sudden we get this thing back, and Ringo had played some drum fills and sang on it. And so we put it on the record. It was really cool because George Reeve was saying, you know, I wonder if he doubled his vocal like all the Beatle things, and he did. So, you know, George Reeve got to mix a Beatle, which was really thrilling for both of us at that time. But he's just a great cat. He's just been really, really gracious and nice to me.
Well, and Coochie Coochie being one of Ringo's songs and you covering a Ringo B-side had to attract his attention as well. The new song from Wylie Hubbard, Bad Trick, that features Ringo on drums and this band with Joe Walsh and Chris Robinson and Don Was. The video is amazing. The song's great too, and it stands on its own. Can you do Bad Trick just with you and your guitar?
Yeah, you bet. I probably won't have the deep groove. I mean, on the video and the drum, Ringo played this drum. It's such a deep groove, and it's so cool. And I think he really enjoyed it. If you see the video, you can tell he really enjoyed doing it. And I wrote the song so there would be two holes in there with boom, so it'd be a drum fill. And I was hoping he would do this drum fill because it's kind of like a get back drum fill. And you know, that right there, every time I get to that point, it's thrilling, you know. But yeah, I'll try it here. Oh, and this is a song, by the way, that I wrote this song with Judy. We sat around, and I had some kind of a rough gig or something. I said, man, that's kind of a rough gig. And Judy goes, well, everybody turns a bad trick every now and then. And I went, oh, so we sat down and kind of came up with it. So I'm very, you know, happy that we got to have a co-write on this song, but I'll try it here. I haven't done this a lot. Don't get any on you if you go to Nashville. Don't operate machinery if you own Benadryl. You got to have some faith if you're in a lion's den. And everybody turns a bad trick now and then. Club soda don't always remove ketchup stains. Ain't nothing you can take is gonna cure a migraine. Broken dreams is a premise in a mice and men. And everybody turns a bad trick now and then. You got to have some scars if you wanna be a poet. To get weeds out of a garden wall, you got to hold it. Possession with intent, We'll get you 5 to 10, and everybody turns a bad trick now and then. And everybody turns a bad trick now and then. Most gamblers know that they'll never break even. There's 5 stitches to go through when you're grieving. The sword is always bloodier than the pen, and everybody turns a bad trick now and then. You got to have some skies if you wanna be a poet. To get weeds out of a garden, woo, you got to hoe it. Possession with intent will get you 5 to 10, and everybody turns a bad trick now and then. And everybody turns a bad trick now and then. And everybody turns a bad trick now and then. Yeah. There's another verse, but you gotta, download it to hear it. That's my manager said, why don't you just do a part of it? So, but no, it's I'm just kidding. I just thought it's hard to do that because, without the drums and Don was his bass and Joe's a guitar, and then of course Chris singing on the harmony, it just, it's kind of, it loses that darkness, but it's good to try it like that.
Well played, Ray Wylie Hubbard and Jody Hubbard, a collaboration on Bad Trick. And we will post the video that has Ringo and Don and Chris and Joe. I'm on a first name basis with all of them, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll post that and share it. Ray, it's good to know that you and Judy and Lucas are doing well at home in Wimberley, Texas. And I know we all are praying that this will all clear up and hopefully you can go out this summer and play these new songs and this new co-starring album for everybody. I wish you continued good health and good luck and success. And I just want to thank you for the inspiration and all the great music all these years.
Well, thank you, Jody. Like I say, just knowing you and your love of music and everything that you've done for Austin music and musicians is just, you really are appreciated and loved in the musical community, and you mean the world to me.
Well, right back to you. Give Judy a hug for me, and good luck with co-starring. You're going to take it to the world this summer, and it's going to be fun. We've been at home with Ray Wylie Hubbard on KUTX. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.